Jamie here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. Tuesday, April 22nd here, 8:38 a.m. Apologize for a little early. I did to watch this twice this morning, and each time I go to make an edit and it disappears, and then I get that little error screen from on the Mac and it erased. So I tried to do it again and it didn't save the draft. And then so I figured I'd just type it quick, do a quick rant so I can talk about it, and then try and re-edit it so I'm not in the same position. But anyway, take a look at S&P futures on the mend, uh, about up here 1%. Asian markets mixed overnight, mostly green, and Europe markets mixed this morning. Who knows what today brings, right? Yesterday was just one of those sessions. I keep using the analogies like a boxing match, the 12th round, and one of those boxers just completely out of energy, and the other one still has some energy left and just pounding him. And that's what it felt like yesterday. It was like the buyers were done. It said, okay, they just came to realization that hey, we're just gonna let the market go, and thankfully found support around 2 o'clock, and then markets closed off the lows, held that, I wouldn't say held it, but broke under 509 on the SPY for a little bit before bouncing. And then some continuation here today. It's just there was no big catalyst yesterday outside of the continued attacks on Powell by POTUS. And if that continues, the the more it happens, the higher the probability that the market's going to start pricing in some kind of event, whether it be as resignation, termination. Um, and then the other side is the tariffs, right? And that it's like you're adding more uncertainty to the uncertainty, right? It's uncertain of how long we're going to get certainty. So it's just crazy. Um, so until that happens, the swing's going to be, up and down, because I think there's still hope that there'll be some deals ratcheted out, or there'll be some positive catalysts that come out of this that may move markets. Tomorrow we get the PMI data. The flash PMI, I think it's going to be stronger than expectations and probably be shaken off because I think it's just going to be pent up. Um, and then we have after the close today, Tesla. And Tesla, it's like peak negativity again. Similar. I remember I would have to go back to October when I was doing the rant. And I'm like, I should get some calls, peak negativity, and the stock went on a rampage from 200 to 500 or near 500. I don't think it's the same situation in regards to where it could rally, but I do think it's near peak negativity. So uh, certainly be something to watch after close today. Then Thursday we get Intel and Google. Those will be some more names to watch. Interesting. Johnson and Johnson this morning kind of gave not Johnson and Johnson. 3M gave the playbook for how to tackle the tariff situation and earnings. Right. I mean, if they just gave the playbook this morning, they gave guidance and then adjusted guidance based on the possible tariff impacts of between -20 and -40 cents, and the stock is rocketing higher this morning. I mean, it did post a beat, but I think if other companies can kind of say, hey, this is what possibly could happen, pull off that Band-Aid, and the market's pulled off some of that Band-Aid already by putting pressure on these stocks, that might be a bullish thing. So we'll see how earnings season plays out over this week. Intuitive Surgical after the close today, just another name. It's tough for me to be aggressive on some of these names uh, on the call side just yet. But I mean, especially with some of them off the lows, there might be opportunities. Intuitive Surgical not substantially off its highs, where it was at all-time highs. Its last earnings at 600. Actually, it's down about a buck 25. Maybe there's some opportunity, but not a name I'm going to trade anyway. I'm trying to keep things small. That's kind of the overall market. And here's a great chart. I always try and keep things in perspective. Who knows where this data is from? But this shows the average time it takes for a deal to get negotiated, and then how long it takes for the deal to launch after being negotiated with the U.S. So the U.S. trade deals over the years, right? So on average, it takes 18 months to sign a deal and 45 months to implement, right? So it's the craziest thing. It's like trying to take the Titanic, maybe not the best boat to use as an analogy, and trying to turn it in a week, right? When it normally turns in 18 months or 45 months. So that's kind of the scary part there. But I think the market, it's a forward-looking pricing mechanism. If we can at least show that, hey, there's some positive outcomes possible on the horizons, if some of these deals, at least there's some top line things that get hammered out, I think that'll bode well. But for now, the longer this goes, the longer the Powell situation goes, the higher the probability that we're going to break the 480 on the SPY, the 481. And I mean, this week is probably a key week. If we get through this week with nothing, you got to think like next week's going to be worse. The week after that will be worse. I'm hoping that's not the case, right? But got to be open to all those possibilities. And then, of course, people still talking about this U.S. dollar situation. Thankfully, U.S. dollar's a little higher this morning. Yields are lower. So hopefully that doesn't come to fruition. Um, and that's that. All right. So now, quick, just on individual names. So yesterday and last week too, I was looking at Reddit as a name to play for some calls, just because it held up somewhat relatively well. We had the big bounce, and then it had some news too, all the way up to 120. I forget when that was, back at the end of March. And then it's been tight trading ranges, and it looks like anytime the market finds a little footing, it really looks like it's ready to outperform. So I went and got some strikes for this week. Not only that, I think Google earnings on Thursday will help keep premiums bid in some of these names that might have sympathy moves. So it's gapping a little higher this morning. If I'm able to get some of my calls out to cover costs, I'll do that and then ride the rest. But I think it trades north of $100 this week. And then you start looking, the 200-day moving average is 115. It's a volatile name. I'm not saying it can't it can't get there, but if it does, obviously my calls will look great. But that's kind of the thought process there. So I'll continue to look for opportunities. Even yesterday, I'm trying to find put hedges as the market's melting, and it's like a slow melt. And I know the instant the market finds footing, any put position you get is going to take, not take, I wouldn't say 100% take it on the chin, but it's gonna feel some pain. So unless, and I was talking about yesterday with some of these names like Amazon, you had to know or say, hey, Amazon's gonna be down 4% today, and get the puts right at the open, and even that, and take on a lot of risk because the premiums were expensive to begin with, and then you make 100% or 90%, and that's buying at the open and then selling at the lows, right? And then watching it bounce, and then saying, "Oh, okay, I'm selling it at well, you don't know when the lows, you assume, but where was it? 2 o'clock yesterday. Let's see, do I have it here? Yeah. Well, 3 o'clock, it's 165, and then it bounces $2, 250 in a matter of an hour. So okay, that's just not how I typically trade, right? Timing on that aspect, I'm more of trading either fundamentals or growth, undiscovered names that I think have quick potential upside, maybe catalyst, things like that. I'm not trying to trade Amazon for a quick intraday put and then try and time the bottom of it, right? It's just not how I trade it. So where's the bottom? Crazy on the US dollar. All right, so that's Reddit. Why can't I get my slides going? I feel like everything's locking up. Hang on a second, folks. Yeah, I'm having all kinds of issues today. Okay, so other names, First Solar, I was talking about yesterday morning. Of course, I had the calls the previous week I added, then I closed them out last week for decent gains, and then I'm just waiting. I'm like, the tariff news has to be positive for First Solar, and then sure enough, I think it's the Commerce Secretary or someone came on and talked about the solar sector yesterday, and then this morning there's talks of enacting like a 3,500% tariff on China, solar wafers from Southeast Asia. I mean, this is all out there. So I'm just surprised that, the stock has not rallied already. But sure enough, it's rallying this morning, $9. Of course, in hindsight, I would like to get some calls. I'll see what happens here today. If I can get some calls to play for a move to 138 plus, and they're inexpensive on a risk reward basis, I might try and do that. The only other issue is they report earnings next week, a week from today. So it's tough for me to get calls into next week, but if I find any decent risk reward ones, I will. 50-day moving average 137.69. So I think if it heads over that, it head into the 140s. And to me, it's like these news events might just create awareness. Some people are not aware that the competition that exists with these companies, domestic companies who produce in the US, and those in China that are just flooding the US with low price wafers. The other catalysts are possible catalyst and phase reports. I don't know if it's tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow or tomorrow after the close. Uh, Not pure solar play, but solar and converts to batteries, to AC or DC, whatever it is. So could be a possible catalyst for solar. All right, so that's that. Then some other names, GPCR, another positive analyst this morning, HC Wainwright. I mean, this analyst has been positive for a long time anyway, but they have an $80 price target. So they reiterated that this morning. Buy rating, 24.19, I think, is the highs from Friday. It breaks that. I think it heads into the 30s. So, I was talking about yesterday, spreads are crazy on the calls, the bid the bid ask on the calls. But if I do, I might get some Julys. I was looking at the 45s, maybe in the 50s, because I think if there's some a buyout, it's going to be like a 200% premium from where it's trading right now. So $70 maybe. That's that. And then, of course, TERN too. TERN, $358 million in cash, only a $230 million market cap. Another name that should benefit from Pfizer dropping their study. And it's an oral solution there, early stage. It's a name I was doing my rants last year. Had some good ones with it and some not so good ones, but maybe an opportunity here. So still like that. So Johnson and Johnson was holding up yesterday. So I still had a couple of my 160 strikes. I'm like, oh wow, it's looking great. If the market finds some footing, it's going to take off. And then sure enough, it sells off in the afternoon. Didn't want to lose the rest of my profits, so I closed those out. Um, I'll possibly revisit, but such a slow mover that you need some kind of, it's rare that it does the move that it did on Friday and was up nearly 4%. So probably going to just take off my watch list for now. I did add those SQQQ calls yesterday, and like I was just saying before, and I have it on the watch list. If we have a reversal today, worst case scenario here today would be we reverse this gap, the market melts into the noon hour, and then we break 509. Then I think we're setting up for a break under 500 on the SPY. So I'll continue to hold these SQQQ calls, and I might add more hedge positions, especially if we break 509 on the SPY. I'll be finding some it could be TZA calls, could be FAS puts, similar, probably more of an ETF instrument as opposed to individual name. Still like GameStop here, so I'm still looking to get some June or July strikes. The premiums came out like crazy yesterday. And even if you think there was a day that it really could shine, it was yesterday when the market's tanking and Bitcoin is rallying, and it's rallying. It's up nearly 2% again today. So probably it's just waiting on maybe some news of it finally purchasing some Bitcoin. And that's it, folks. I'll be back on audio later. Let's have a great day. Rock and roll.